Not many Nottingham Forest fans are willing to admit it, and even the manager is more nuanced about expectations. Nonetheless, it's clear as day that Nottingham Forest might just be in the title race. But how did that happen? How did a relegation-threatened side flip the script to become the surprise package of the current English Premier League season? We are past the halfway mark of the season, and Nottingham Forest continue to fly as the league's top overperformers. Back in August, hardly anyone saw Forest getting into Europe, let alone winning the league. Fast forward to the end of January, and it still looks possible to some extent for Nottingham Forest to pull off a 2015-2016 Leicester City title run. But what keeps me up at night is how Forest have managed to produce such sustained results over the course of the last 6 months. To understand the transformation, we have to rewind a bit and go back a few seasons earlier. Forest were promoted back to the Premier League at the end of the 2021 and 2022 season for the first time since their relegation in 1999, and they instantly set their eyes on one single goal: signing as many players as humanly possible. The club brought in a staggering 22 players in the 2022 summer transfer window, followed by yet another 7 players the following January. Although the state of transfers obviously slowed down in subsequent windows, if we were to add up all signings, including the loan deals, we'd arrive at 56. Forest have signed 56 players since their promotion back to the league just over 2 years ago. Now, was that the best approach? Well, not necessarily, especially considering that the club narrowly survived relegation for 2 seasons on the bounce. However, suffice it to say that if you throw enough darts on the board, you're eventually going to hit the bullseye. 2 recent signings have particularly stood out in Nottingham Forest campaign this season. 33-year-old Chris Wood is a proven Premier League striker. He has netted double figures in 6 seasons, previously for Burnley and now for Forest. With 14 goals to his name, Chris Wood is currently the joint 4th highest goal scorer, only behind Salah, Haaland, and Alexander Isak, and will definitely surpass his best top-flight tally of 14. Wood might be a completely different player from someone like Jamie Vardy, but what he brings to the table is extremely invaluable to Forest's attacking method. The club has particularly relied on using the pace and direct running of the likes of Callum Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga to exploit spaces behind opponents. See, Forest opponents are usually drawn forward by Forest's preference for sitting deep and playing without the ball. This makes Wood the ideal target for playing long from the back and netting goals in a straightforward yet brilliant counter-attacking strategy. So it's not too surprising to see that Wood alone has scored almost half of Forest's league goals this season. Are Nottingham Forest a bit too reliant on their key striker? Maybe, but it's also crazy to think that the club tried to find a new striker to provide competition for Wood. But Eddie Nketiah eventually joined Crystal Palace from Arsenal, while Feyenoord striker Santiago Jimenez remained at De Kuyt. Chris Wood currently has one of the best conversion rates in the league. But let's also not forget the energy and invention Morgan Gibbs-White adds to the Forest attack. Morgan Gibbs-White, like his manager, made the move from Molineux. He has since broken into the England national team. Forest manager Nuno Espirito Santo has called his skipper a talented player, and it's hard to disagree with that statement. The midfielder has been arguably the best supporting cast for the Forest attack. Let's switch focus to the defense. Nikola Milenkovic joined Nottingham Forest for £12 million from Fiorentina in the summer, and already there's no denying what Milenkovic brings to the team. Before the Bournemouth clash, Forest had conceded only 22 goals from the 22 Premier League games played, which meant that only Liverpool and Arsenal had conceded fewer goals than them in the top flight. Milenkovic has formed an impressive partnership with Brazilian Murillo at the heart of the defense, and the most notable change perhaps has been the number of goals conceded from set pieces. Last season, Forest conceded 23 of their 68 goals from set pieces, which was 4 more than relegated Luton and Sheffield United. However, they've only let in a handful this season. The 27-year-old Milenkovic has been the bedrock of the Forest defense, marshalling the back line with confidence and authority. There is no doubt that the Serbian international will be a contender for the bargain signing of the season. But we aren't done with the defense just yet. Forest goalkeeper Matt Sels has been a revelation. The Belgian was signed from Strasbourg for £5 million in February 2024 as a backup goalkeeper, their third choice I should say. Fast forward to less than a year later, and Selt has long become the undisputed first-choice goalkeeper, and also now leads the way in the league with 9 clean sheets this season. The arrival of Elliot Anderson has also upped the first team quality. The midfielder has shown his quality in possession recovery and ball progression. Anderson's ability to carry the ball forward or pick a quick pass to the attacking players has allowed Forest to start their attacks at breakneck pace, instantly switching from their defensive low block to all-out attack in a split second. On the opposite end of the pitch is aina, who with the help of Morgan Gibbs-White gives Forest that extra carrying power and rapid ball progression. Let's also not forget that Nico Williams has been impressive on many occasions. Still, it's interesting to see that Nottingham Forest are about the least frequent passers of the ball. Among all 20 teams in the English top flight, only Everton have made fewer passes than Forest, and that's literally because Everton have a game in hand. It's safe to say that no team in the league passes the ball fewer times than Nottingham Forest. But why isn't this a problem? Nottingham Forest are in the top 3 for interceptions, the top 2 for headed clearances, and the very top for total clearances. I should also mention that no team has made more clearances off the line than Nottingham Forest. Why is that though? The team employs a low block approach to defense. Forest prefer to sit further back and defend deep in their own box. They are more than willing to invite teams onto them, knowing that they can win 1v1 duels and stop the opposition from scoring. They barely keep possession, but once they get the ball, they often convert with ruthless efficiency. Of course, they do have an old-school physical target man in Chris Wood. However, he is surrounded by very technical players. A lot of Forest attacks have come from insanely precise off-ball movements and intricate passing patterns. It goes without saying that Forest have also found a way to become the most devastating team on the break, which makes them frustrating to play against for many teams. Some rival fans have called out Forest for what they think is an anti-football strategy for winning games. Forest have scored the least number of goals in the top 10, and many of their wins have been narrow. Should that be a problem? I don't think so. You don't always have to control the game to win it. Nuno Espirito Santo had a 4-year spell at Wolves, and during that time he guided the club to back-to-back top 7 finishes. Wolves were the club no one wanted to play. However, things eventually went stale at the club, and the manager had to pay the price. Nuno then went to Tottenham but only lasted 6 months, and Tottenham saw terrible results. The manager was sacked and made a move to Saudi Arabia, where he won the Saudi Pro League and the Super Cup with Al-Ittihad. Still, it wasn't enough to convince the doubters when Nuno replaced Steve Cooper at the Nottingham Forest dugout in December 2023. Since taking over from a team that had been 17th on the table in December 2023, Nuno Espirito Santo has been able to instill a style and system that works for the club, and he deserves some credit for that. One of the advantages for Forest is that they are not in Europe. So with no Champions League, Europa League, or Conference League football, the players get more time to rest, not to mention the added distraction of the FA Cup and League Cup. For other teams like Liverpool, Arsenal, and Man City, their cup commitment leaves the players at a higher risk of injury and fatigue, as they have to play 3 times a week on some occasions. However, that is not the case with Nottingham Forest. They currently sit 3rd in the Premier League after 23 games played, and were on a 9-game unbeaten streak entering into their Bournemouth clash. However, Forest were given a reality check as they got thrashed 5-0 by Bournemouth. Forest might have dealt with their fair share of controversy and chaos in the past. The point deduction following a profit and sustainability breach, the controversial VAR post that saw the club fined £750,000, and their owner Evangelos Marinakis being on the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Still, nothing takes away from the fact that the team has been unbelievable. Nottingham Forest is still the only team in the league to beat Liverpool, and they did that at Anfield for their first league win at Anfield since 1969. The league leaders couldn't beat Forest home and away, and that says a lot about how good they are. Big teams have struggled at the City ground, and small teams have been taken care of. In terms of points won, Forest is the second best team on the road, only behind Liverpool, with 22 points from 11 away games so far. Another thing worth mentioning is that the big guns have been faltering, with Man City, Man U, Tottenham, and some of the other strong teams not being in the best form. Forest have capitalized on the opportunity and taken full advantage of it like Leicester did almost a decade ago. But let's be clear here, it is quite unlikely that Forest goes on to win the league this season. They'll need a massive capitulation from Liverpool and, to a lesser extent, Arsenal. A more realistic expectation would be a European place finish. It is also possible that as we go deeper into the season, their form will fade. Injuries, fatigue, and regression are a possibility. Nonetheless, we've come to know Forest as a team that defies the odds. Their success has been fully deserved.